can keep your cameras off and your mics muted until the end, that'd be sweet. If you have questions as we go, throw them up in the chat, and I can kind of interrupt Coach Lip and get some questions answered along the way. And then at the end, when I stop recording, everybody can turn their mics on and turn their cameras on, and you guys can kind of ask him some questions, or we can just round table some of the topics or whatever. So excited to have Coach Lippert on here today. The Cony High School head coach, was the offensive coordinator before that, the OC when they won states in, 2013, Coach?
That's correct.
2013. Long line of pretty good quarterbacks up there, and certainly well known for his spread offense. So appreciate you coming on today, Coach, and I'm going to let you take it from here.
I appreciate it, and thanks for doing this, all week or all month, whatever this turns out to be. We're all stuck at home. We all love football, so, we're able to talk to each other about it. That's pretty good. So appreciate you doing that, and thanks for having me on. And I assume you can see everything there, Mike. Is that good?
Yeah, we're good, man.
Okay. So I'm going to talk today about some stuff we've done. Like when Mike talked about his run game, he said it's stuff they don't run all of this every year. You kind of year by year look at your personnel, look at some of the formations you're going to be in, and make some determinations. So this is stuff we've done over the long haul in our vertical pass game and really our RPOs over the last 10 years. So if you have any questions, I know this about myself, I talk fast. So if you have any questions, if you want me to slow down, let me know. Or you can send me an email. We have the longest email addresses in the country, robert.lippert@augustaschools.org, or I'm at Coach Lip on Twitter. So go ahead and fire me a question if I'm unclear on something. So we'll get started here, and let's talk about our offense real quick. We're 100% shotgun, like many of you have been for a while. We're mostly one back. We're occasionally two back, a little bit of empty. And in the last couple of years, we've gone from no tight end. We had no tight end for a 3 or 4 year period. So now we're probably more than 50% of the time we have a tight end in the formation. So that's been a change for us. And just philosophically, we try to stretch teams vertically, horizontally, and we throw our run pass options off numbers and or movement. And as best we can, we try to throw screens. And we used to be pretty good at it. In the last, 3 or 4 years, we haven't been as good a screen team as we've been before that. I think we aren't seeing the same type of rush, kind of the traditional, running back slip screen or wide receiver tunnel screen, the ones that McLeod talked about yesterday. We haven't been as good running those lately. I think D linemen are better trained to kind of sense that lack of pressure and retrace their steps. So, that's a part of our game plan. But if they're not bringing the rush, then we probably have some more time in the pocket to throw. So we're throwing a little bit more that way than the screen game. So as far as our vertical pass game is concerned, it's, again, not any different than anybody else. I'm just going to kind of walk you through how we talk to our quarterbacks. Everyone starts with 4 verts. For us, we call it Seattle. And we leave the huddle and we locate the safeties, right? And we want to call this against one high structure, ideally against cover 3. So our quarterback finds a safety, and then he looks to the corners and says, okay, is this man free or is this cover 3? And he can tell that based on the leverage, the depth, the demeanor of this corner. If he's pressed and looking at the receiver, then it's man free. If he's off and looking at the cue and kind of that bail technique, we think it's cover 3. And that's when we want to call it. We don't love calling, our 4 verticals against man free because we really don't have an advantage as far as the scheme's concerned. You're just relying on one of your athletes beating somebody. And for us, that, sometimes isn't always the best. So we try to scheme it, against cover 3 as best we can. We'll look to safety one way. So if we would say we want to throw this inside slot, can you guys see the little, pointer here? I hope you can. We try to move this safety one way and then throw the opposite seam. And you'll see in the film, we try to get it in there 16 to 20 yards. We almost never get it in there by 16. It's usually 18 to 20, 22. But as soon as you get past 20, either this safety is going to be able to, react back. He might melt this way a little bit, but he might be able to get back over the top. Or a well-trained corner here will apex this and sort of play between the number 1 and number 2 vertical and be able to kind of peel off and collision that at 20 or 22 the longer down the field it gets. So we try to get him to throw that ball between 16 to 20. And again, we look to safety one way and throw opposite. Again, it's not any different than probably any of you guys do it. If we're having trouble, getting this slot back down the seam, because it's this linebacker is physical, he's jamming him on his way to the flat, we'll run our vertical switch. So we'll call it Seattle switch. And the outside guy is going to angle in. It's kind of hard to draw here on huddle, so it's not perfectly drawn here. It's more of a smooth, just kind of building up the hash. And this wide receiver is going to go behind, come tight off, his backside and try to run the bottom of the numbers. Okay, and as I go back, the landmarks for any 4 verts for us are bottom of the numbers, just outside the hash, bottom of the numbers, right? And it doesn't matter like who's getting there. They just have to know where their landmark is, and they got to run that landmark. And I'll show you a couple clips where we don't do that and sort of what happens as a result of that. So we can get to it with a switch. Sometimes this linebacker, overplays underneath here, and you open up a nice window in this area. Sometimes a corner squeezes with this inside portion of this vertical, and you get the wheel, almost turns into post wheel at that point. So if we're having trouble getting up the seam, because linebackers are well coached, like Coach Kempson's linebackers are going to get their hands on number 2 and not just let him run the seam, right? So, and we don't see a ton of cover 3 anymore. So, 4 verts hasn't been a staple for us, in the last couple of years, but it's something we've had some success with traditionally. And just a couple different ways to run it. The ball's in the left hash. We'll take the inside 2 guys here, and we'll switch it. So this will be Seattle inside switch for us. So number 2 is now going to end up on the left hash, and number 3 is going to come around behind and try to get on the right hash, right? And this safety, some teams, play it differently. Some people play the safety in the middle of the formation. Okay, some play him in the middle of the field. I know what I prefer, but depending on his alignment would change kind of our pre-snap read, where we think we're going with the football. So there's an inside switch that we run. Off a little bit of play action here. If you're an outside zone team, you get into 2 back. Same idea. Now this slot receiver is across the face of the safety. Okay, this outside running back to the right that's out here normally on power read or outside zone is normally blocking this linebacker. He's going to slip him and go up the hash. A nice play fake here, and we kind of got our eyes on the linebacker and safety. Right, if he bites up, we're going to throw it right over his head down the seam. If the safety kind of triggers with that run action, we might be able to slide to the opposite hash. And it's really important. We don't tell our receivers typically, like, you're not an option in this route, because we find that they don't run it as hard. So it's really important that these guys think they're a part of the route, the read, the progression. So this guy's got to stay bottom of the numbers and run hard, because if we tell him, hey, you're not getting the ball, he might kind of drift off and slow play this, and this corner can be a factor, as he crosses that hash there. So we don't typically tell a kid, hey, don't worry about it, you're not getting the ball here, because, that changes their attitude and maybe screws up our spacing a little bit. Then the final way that we've run it before, we run it off like a wing action, and North Dakota State does a great job of this. They'll, get this formation into the boundary, across the tight end this way. The wing back goes up the seam. They'll motion. They run a lot of jet, a lot of, quarterback counter off that, GT stuff. And instead, they'll lead the running back up the right bottom of the numbers. And there's really 2 guys to cover those 3 verticals, right? You got the corner and you got the safety. If you've got any ability to run, this linebacker's probably got to at least take a step forward, worried about outside zone or stretch or jet. So we'll run this sometimes into the boundary. We haven't been in wing probably in a couple of years, but we've had a little bit of success getting this guy up the seam. Actually, it's this guy down the seam that we've hit more often than not. The corner reacts to the wheel outside, and this guy shoots right up there, sometimes uncovered. So that's another way. So those are our variations of verticals. And again, the spacing's the key. You want to get to your landmarks and make sure you're there on time as best you can. What screws it up simply is, these linebackers getting their hands on and rerouting. So if this guy gets rerouted way underneath, he's got to get back on his landmark. It's just imperative for the spacing that they end up where they're designed to be. So we spend a lot of time working on getting releases. A lot of people spend time against like press man, but even on their way in zone, getting their hands on and redirecting, driving them way off course, throws off the timing and really throws off the whole route. So we've had a lot of our 4 verts messed up because we can't, get skinny and stay on our landmark, right? So, that's one thing that we have to work on, okay? And the one thing that I know Half knows I'm going to talk about is the slot fade, which has become trendy really in the college game maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It's something we've thrown for a couple of years now at Coney. And for us, it became a man beater, right? So we like 4 verts against cover 3. We don't really love it against man free. But against man free, we do love slot fade, okay? I'll explain why. First and foremost, right, this guy for us is typically our best receiver, right? We've got our best route runner, not necessarily fastest, but just our most skilled receiver here. And in Maine high school football, this guy lined up opposite him, playing man-to-man. It's sometimes a running back that's 6 foot, 210, that's really good against the run, but maybe isn't suited to turn his back and chase guys down the field. So from a schematic standpoint, teams put their best corner on number 1 typically, right? So if we can keep these guys in the flat, and I'll talk more about our runaway hitch in a minute, but if we can keep this guy here and we get our best receiver running a vertical route against a linebacker, we really like that matchup, And the same holds true for the safety. If we know we like this pre-snap, we're going to work the safety. Believe it or not, they can get a hand on this ball. And our aiming spot is probably different than some of you guys. We don't run this to the bottom of the numbers. I've talked to some coaches that try to get this guy all the way to the bottom of the numbers. We aim at really, 4 or 5 yards on the top of the number. I'll explain why in just a second, but that's our aiming point. It's not really truly getting to the bottom of the number fade, at least in our system. And this route here is a little bit funky, but let's pretend we think it's man free, and instead it's cover 3. Right? So we look the safety off. We got our eyes back to this slot fade we were trying to throw, and all of a sudden this corner is sunk underneath, or is on this slot fade. Well, now we're going to be late to the hitch, so we don't want to throw it now because the linebacker's without a doubt out here in the flat. So what we call this is a runaway hitch. Pre-snap, if we know it's cover 3 and we have this called, we're just going to throw the hitch, okay? And it's imperative that this receiver gets what we call a protection release. He's got to get an outside release on the linebacker because otherwise he can get underneath that hitch pretty quickly, right? If he runs across here, he's going to get his hands on him, and we can sneak this hitch by him in cover 3, to complete that to the outside, right? Now let's assume again, this guy somehow gets out there pretty quick. We're going to run the hitch. If the slot fade is covered by the corner, he's going to run away and get into this space right here. I think I have it drawn up somewhere. Yeah, right here. So here's kind of our look against cover 3. We want it against man free. They fool us. They bail out of there somehow. These corners are on the slot fade, and we developed this because we got beat with it. We're trying to throw either a hitch with a linebacker expanding or a slant we've had before, and we got in some trouble. So we added this kind of runaway hitch to take that space. This is a place to throw the ball either away or as a late option, almost desperation. You can sort of throw that slant in there if the linebacker expands too much, okay? And the reason I like the slot fade so much is because of the throw. So when you throw an outside fade, a typical outside fade, this guy's going bottom of the numbers, right? And that leaves you about 8 yards worth of space for the quarterback to throw the football. And he could throw him ahead, like if he's got him beaten, sure, throw him the ball, that's a touchdown, right? Or, the old Aaron Rodgers back shoulder fade here on the sideline is option number 2. A little bit harder to execute for sure. We've had some quarterbacks that can do it. We've had some that can't for sure. But the slot fade coming from this position, right, gives us a third throw. And I've got clips of all 3. As I'm running this, slot fade, if this corner sits in the flat, okay, the quarterback's really essentially got from the hash to the sideline to throw the football, right? If I look the safety off, I've got this entire side of the field, third of the field to throw the football, right? So if he's got him beaten, he's going to throw 1. Just lead him like you would on the 4 vertical and lead him. If the guy's kind of, a little bit hesitant in his man and playing kind of catch man and bailing out of there and he's on top, you could throw the, Drew Brees back shoulder, down the seam against a guy that's playing back a little bit. Or the one that we tell our quarterback if it's cloudy, we throw the drift ball. That's what this number 3 is over here. So we're going to throw the ball over his outside shoulder all the way as far as we need to drift it. There's no corner in the picture, okay? And this guy, as I said, it might be a linebacker, it could be a tight end that's a really good linebacker. Sorry, it might be a running back, okay? So he's not conditioned, he might be conditioned to turn and run and cover a seam, but to turn and run and then drift all the way past the number and defend a fade ball is really, really difficult, we think, for whoever's covering number 2, right? So that, for me, is the biggest difference is, when you're on one-on-one on the outside, it limits the room your quarterback can throw it. He can throw it from the number to the sideline. This really allows us to throw it all the way from the hash all the way over there, and drift the receiver as needed, right? And at the main league passing camp, we'll take a receiver, put the best defensive back on him, tell him, hey, he's running slot fade, and our quarterbacks will complete 90% of them because they've got 3 different options, and they just throw it away from you. You don't have to overthink it. Wherever you are, if you're perfectly in phase, we're going to drift it over your shoulder all the way to the sideline, and the wide receiver is between you and the ball, and you've got no chance to get a hand on it, right? So we really like the slot fade for that reason. We didn't throw it a ton this year. I've got some clips from a couple years ago. We didn't see a lot of press man, a lot of man free, so we didn't throw it a lot this year. But that's something that across all levels has become a kind of the trendy way to beat man free is with a slot fade.
Hey, Coach Soren wanted to ask if you guys actually see a lot of cover 3, or if you don't, what do you predominantly see when you're in so much 4 wide?
Yeah, so it depends. Right now, we're seeing a variety. So when we had, Ben Lucas, we saw a lot of too high, a lot of teams trying to take away the big play, playing too high, quarters, man too free, kind of more consumed with the pass game. We're actually this year, for the first time maybe ever, we were more run than pass. We were 65-35 run to pass. So we had some more people in the box this year. Our quarterback hurt his shoulder week 5, so our vertical pass game kind of went away. But we see a variety now. Gardner plays us too high a lot. They play cover 2 and quarter half. Lewiston played us in too high this year. Mount Blue was in 1 high. So we see more of a mix now than we ever had. We had about a 2 or 3 year period when we only saw 1 high. We saw man flea in cover 3 against Messalonsky and Brewer and a lot of teams in our league. So it's a good mix nowadays. But I had a slide, I took it out the other day. I was going to talk about it. But what's interesting to me about high school football in Maine, and maybe it's different in Class A, but we don't see a lot of coverages within the game. Like we go into the game with an idea of like maybe the 2, maybe 3 coverages we're going to see. And that's obviously a huge advantage, right? So we don't have to spend hours talking to our quarterback about, okay, get out, check the window, how many safeties, what are we doing? He has an idea. They're either going to play, man free, cover 3, or quarters, right? There's not a lot of like mixing and matching of coverages at our level in Class B North. So that makes it easier, I think, on the quarterback in terms of his ability to kind of discern and decipher the coverage and follow appropriately. So that's our slot fade there. The last one I'll talk about in the vertical pass game is, air raid guys would call Y cross. We call it over. We haven't run it for a couple of years, but maybe we'll get back to it. Is getting this, whether it's a tight end, an inline tight end, whether it's a tightened down slot, getting him behind the linebackers, crossing the formation into this window over here. And what you do on the front side of it doesn't really matter as long as you have 1 guy deep and 1 guy in the flat. So some teams are going to run fade slide. Some teams are going to run fade bubble. Okay, we throw a lot of bubbles, so like we should probably run it this way. So this safety or whoever's worked down, right, he's going to probably fly out of there or CC's bubble. So that really opens up this window. If we can get any type of run fake action here to get the linebackers to bite, we're going to just kind of high-low this safety with these 2 routes, right? And the back for us typically starts here and crosses face and is the 5th option over here. Some teams like Alabama will put him here and fake him into the flat this way and run this concept, right? So it's up to you what you want to do with the back. And it's the 5th, progression in the read. So, most teams don't get to their 5th progression, but the fake is intended to affect these linebackers and allow you to get the seam by the crosser here behind. As far as this route over here, we've run it 2 different ways. When we first ran it, we ran it as a curl. That's how I learned it. I don't know if it was Mike Leach stuff, but we ran it as a curl. And it was the 4th read. So you read it 1, 2, 3, 4, and if the back's out here, 5, right? So you can get from 1 to 4 pretty quickly. Pre-snap, like with this look, you might know 1 and 2 are dead, right? Unless you got great leverage here on the safety, you might know that's dead. So you get your eyes over here and then try to kind of hit this window or this window. But what we found with the curl is the corner in cover 3 or in quarters or in man, like that's the 4th look. So he's going to be all over that curl route by the time you get all the way back to your 4th look. So we put him on the in a couple of years ago, hit that once or twice. And then, I've seen it become a little bit more trendy to throw him on a post. The only reason I don't love the post, and I get the concept, right? This safety is going to rob down here, and now you've got a nice shot behind him. For me, you've got to have a guy that runs 4-7 to run away from this corner with a post. Right? That's a long throw. This corner, a lot of good corners, obviously, good receivers that just play corner on defense. To get separation, you need a little bit of speed there, and so we'd rather have a breaking route, an in route here to kind of get into this space and work off this safety. So some people, as I said, if you look on the left here, fade slide, fade bubble. Some people run it with smash. So you just end up with a short route and a long route to kind of high-low the corner, and then you're going to work your way through. Work your way through the progression that way. Okay. The way we ran it a lot back in the day was off our fake screen. So we ran a lot of what we call smoke screen. So we'd run a smoke screen. We'd fake the block here, end up on the bottom of the numbers. And so we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. I think eventually I have the read. There you go. Here's the full read with the running back fake. So our back's going to fake to the right in an attempt to kind of draw these guys forward just a step. Okay. And then you're going to glance to the deep route, to the short route, to the crosser, to the in, post, curl, post dig, whatever you want to run, and then the back. We've gotten to the back once, I think. Just because of pressure, we kind of eluded the rush and stepped up and got our eyes out here and flipped it. But we have never, from the pocket, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't happen very much in high school football. So that's a route that a lot of people like, because it's good against any coverage. Because you've got a lot of built-in answers there, depending on what you're going to get. So that's a staple of the air raid. A lot of teams run that. Obviously, they run the air raid. A variation of that, again, we saw corners for a lot of years against most teams. So we'd go with our vertical concept on this side, and then bring, in this case, it's the tight end. But bring someone across, number 2 across, and try to get into this space that's been vacated, assuming the safety clears, the corner clears. You hide the linebacker here with motion to back out, kind of occupy his eyes, put him on this side, run him into the flat, and you kind of high-load the linebacker there as these safety and corner clear out in that window, right? So again, it takes a little bit of pass protection, but and the other thing worth noting too is like depending on who's running it. So this guy, when number 2 detached is running it, he can get kind of flat in the first part of his stem to make sure he gets behind the linebackers, because you got to get behind the linebackers. If they're dropping out of there fast, you've got to make sure somehow you get behind them. Okay? Unless they get way out of there, you can come underneath. But it gets a little murky, right? When a tight end's running it, he's going to have almost a vertical component to get past them to then get out of their vision and work behind them. So depending on his alignment, you might have more of a vertical stem. If he's out here, okay, he can almost go on a diagonal across to get into that space, okay? So that's okay. The question I have for you, and we can discuss it when I'm done, okay, we're kind of, I don't want to say struggling, we're looking at the idea of mirrored routes versus full field routes. So mirrored routes would be smash to both sides or slot fade to both sides. And what I just described for our over or across is a full field read, where there's a read on the left, the progression works left to right or right to left, and you've got some different options for your quarterback. And I kind of thought about the pros and cons. So the pros, if you do go full field reads, which is what you'll see almost exclusively at the college level and certainly the NFL, is you've got built-in answers. It's harder to defend, and your quarterback has a true progression 1 through 4, 1 through 3, whatever you want to build in. Right now, if you have smash to both sides, he's only going to be able to look at one side. He can't, look at smash left. It's a little clouded. I'll hit my third step. I'm looking back to smash on the right. It just can't happen. So we always just say, hey, whichever one looks better, whichever corner looks like you can manipulate, throw to that side, into the boundary, whatever it is. So if you can have a full field concept, then it's got some built-in answers for your quarterback. Okay, there are some cons with it though, right? There's obviously more learning, and the play calls get a lot longer. So how, like for us, like we would say, let's say Seattle was our our vertical pass game, and we've got that cross coming, so it'd be Seattle left, and then over right. We're trying to match those things together. Sure, you could put it into like a one-word play, but again, that's just more learning, and obviously puts more on your quarterback's plate. How many quarterbacks in Maine can go 1, 2, 3, 4? Maybe a couple, but not a ton. So is it worth the investment if it's not really going to happen very much? I think a lot of coaches want to give a quarterback in Maine one read. You're reading the corner on smash, throw the hitch, throw the corner, right? So the full field reads, I think, are better for your pass game, but I think they're harder to employ, harder to call, puts a little bit more on your quarterback. But if you got a quarterback that can handle it, I think you've got some good options there. For example, okay, here's a mirrored concept of slot fade. So again, the worst scenario here, we get cover 3. So let's do this. Let's tag, slot fade to the right, and let's put double post on the backside, right? So if we don't like slot fade over here because we're in cover 3, let's just high-low the safety, cross his face with number 2, throw it into this hole. If we get inside leverage on the corner and the safety bites down, we're just throwing that to the left upright, and trying to score that way. So, and I think I got one more. So again, sometimes we can't tell if it's quarters or cover 2 against Gardner. Sometimes, it's hard to tell what the corners are doing. So let's put, our 4 vertical on this side. If it turns out to be cover 2, we're going to throw a little rail shot in here. If we realize that it's quarters, we're going to run our flood concept to the right. Fade, out, flat. Okay, we're going to high-low the linebacker that's responsible for the flat. So I think personally that having full field reads is the way to go. It's just a matter of building them and coming up with the terminology. I think that gets a little bit tricky. Okay, and I'll end with, and I got some video for most of this stuff. I'll end with our kind of evolution with the RPO. And with the first thing we ever did was really a numbers count. And I can distinctly remember in 2009, 2010, we had Luke Dunkley at quarterback, and really no running back that went with him. So we were in empty a lot of the time. And Hathaway coached him at the left school, actually. So we were in a lot of like quarterback draw. And so I know you guys have called plays for long enough, have experienced this, where you call, okay, it's 2nd and 3, let's go quarterback draw. And for whatever reason, they come out and they've got 6 men in the box. Okay, and you run it and you pick up 2 or 1 or whatever. Okay, and you notice, hey, if they've got 6 in the box, let's throw a bubble out here, okay, to take advantage of that. So the next play, you go, hey, let's go empty right. It's empty right for us. Let's go empty right and let's go bubble. Right, so we got bubble to each side. And for whatever reason, this guy in red is lined up over the top of number 3. It could be, that they changed the defense. It could be that he just, for some reason, it's Maine high school football. Sometimes they get misaligned, right? And so now we've got bubble against a really bad look. Okay, and so I think what happened was Luke Dunkley looked out there and just took off and ran, and we went, wait a minute, why don't we just say bubble draw? So this is 2010. I never heard anybody say it, But we said empty right and let's go bubble draw. So he either threw the bubble or he ran draw, and we didn't really, like think much of it. We ran a lot of quarterback dive, we called it back then. We could have done that as well, but we only ran it with draw for whatever reason. And that was all the way back in 2010. And we figured we could get the best look based on whatever the defense gives us. Okay, and that obviously has evolved a long way. The next guy I saw was Noel Mazzoni. He was Arizona State at the time. He's the end zone guy, and we never bought that system or anything, but he had some good stuff on screens and kind of marrying some of the language we'd use with what we had in mind. So we started, 2012 with Ben Lucas and Chandler Shawsack and those guys. We started, throwing these key screens, we called them back then, to either our widest guy or the inside guy, right? So we just count the box. So if they've got 6 in here, we tell our quarterback we can't run into that look. We just can't do it. So unless the quarterback's a runner. Now we have Riley Geyer, we can, have the back go block him in quarterback zone, okay? But if we're just going to hand off to the running back, if they've got 6, we can't block it, right? So we have to have an advantage somewhere else. So when teams are playing those 2 high structures, we threw the ball out here to number 1. And this is a little harder than people think, and that's why we struggle with it in recent years. You've got to have some guys that can block in space. And it's not necessarily the guys that can bench the most or the most athletic. It's a combination of like kind of toughness, willingness, a little bit of grit. Reed Hopkins, who you'll see some video of, was about 5'9", 150 on his best day, and he might be the best we've ever had. Right, so you got to have some athleticism, some balance, some toughness to get out here and block in space. And the last couple of years, or last year in particular, we just didn't really have that. We didn't throw a ton of this stuff, which has kind of been a staple for us for a long time. So we tell these 2 guys to go flat and fast, and they go flat and they pick up whatever shows. And I'll show you some clips of that. Okay, so as long as he's in the box, we're going to throw it somewhere. If he starts to kind of apex this, sure, we'll hand it off and try to run 5-on-5 that way. Okay, we ran it with bubble. Okay, same idea. We just count 1, 2. Okay, the third guy's either here. Sometimes the safety's down here. We count from about 7 yards, to the line of scrimmage is in the picture. Okay, so in this case, there's only 2 guys out here. We're going to throw this. I don't care if it's 4th and 1 at the 10-yard line. Okay, we're going to throw the bubble. We're not going to run into this box. We're going to throw a bubble and rely on blocking here, and we're going to try to, get outside and play those numbers game. Okay. The other way, we kind of dressed it up. We put him in motion. We'd snap the ball at the left guard. He kind of goes a yard in front and runs the bubble from there. Okay, we might have like an outside double call, their counter, or DT, whatever you want going left. And now the linebacker here is the read, right? So he might see that motion and start, vacating the box. Sure, we'll hand it off. Now we're blocking 6-on-6. Okay, if he hangs out in the box, and this guy's running full speed, if the quarterback catches a snap and he's still there, we're going to raise up, we're going to throw the ball out here and play 3-on-2, right? So that's another one that we ran a little bit more back when we did this with more frequency, okay? Then teams started, and it's all about kind of how it evolved. Teams started taking this linebacker, leaving the same general look. We'll put the linebacker up here. Brunswick was the first one to do this. We played him 4 times in 2012 and 13, the regular season and postseason each year. So they took Alex Banduver as a big physical linebacker, put him up here over number 2, and he just jammed the living hell out of number 2. Right, so when we're throwing bubble, that's a tough block. You're throwing smoke out here, that's a tough block. So they really kind of mitigated our smoke and bubble game. And going into the playoff game at 13, we added stick, right? Which everyone runs stick. But at that time, like maybe not everyone ran it off inside zone. So if he's going to be preoccupied with number 2, let's just put number 3 on a hitch, okay, and read this linebacker. He hangs out in the box. We're going to throw the hitch all day. First 2 plays of the Eastern Maine Championship game, we threw a hitch to number 3 right there and picked up, 9 yards total, I think. This guy's going to close and catch. Safety's going to work down and tackle, but, it's free yardage. Okay, if he starts to widen on the snap, we'll hand off and play 5-on-5 in the box. Right, so that's really our numbers count stuff. We kind of dressed it up with a little spacing, so same idea, but now we're going to put number 3 into the flat, number 2 on the snag, number 1 on a mini curl, okay, and kind of work off the linebacker here. He can't cover both. This linebacker is really the read, right? So this linebacker, we're reading him which guy to throw to, but it's this linebacker that determines if we throw it or not, right? And so we have to spend some time, obviously, coaching up our quarterbacks on that. So invariably, teams started saying, okay, instead of this and all this space, we're going to bring this safety down and play 1, right? We saw a ton of cover 1, okay, for a few years. Taylor Heath was our quarterback, and those guys. We saw a ton of cover 1. That really does a good job taking away bubble, taking away smoke, taking away some of those RPOs that we had run, right? If you run fade, slide, hitch against this, that's not really, and none of those routes are great. The fade on a matchup or speed out if you got a stud, but that's not as good as just running the open space, okay? So that's how teams are. So we started going to movement-based RPOs, okay? And now they're in man-free. All these are man schemes, right? We're still reading this linebacker, right? If he triggers with any run action, we got to have our guy on a little wind slant inside, and we're going to replace him with the ball, right? So there's our read. He triggers, we throw the slant. The one that's always open and we never throw to is this second guy on our little fin rail, 5 yard in. He's often pretty open, right? So we'll run this and we'll throw, a bunch of little, inside win routes when this linebacker triggers. What ends up happening is this guy gets a little bit leery of that, right? So he kind of slow plays it and sits back here, and now you hand it to the running back and you're off and running, right? So just the presence of that slant behind him, the replace slant, maybe slows down this guy's movement, okay? We ran slant bubble. Okay, same idea. This guy's in the box. We're going to throw slant bubble. When this guy triggers on that bubble look, we'll throw slant in behind. Nothing earth-shattering. Off that same look with the motion, okay, with outside zone left, okay, we're going to motion across. Again, this guy sees that a couple times. He's going to start driving on this motion, thinking we're throwing the swing. We throw the win route in behind him, right? So we're really working off him. So we tell the receiver here, you've got to win inside no matter what. If the guy's got inside leverage, you got to, get a little spray release inside, shake, get inside, right? That's mandatory. And I would say 99 out of 100 times we can do that. It might be like, not that open because they're all over us, but you can get inside. And if the guy trails with you, you've got the second route coming behind that should be pretty open, right? Although we've only thrown that maybe a handful of times I can think, okay? So that, and then there's a couple more before I go to the video. Okay, we added these, against Biddeford a couple years ago. Some of them were attached to run, some weren't, but you've got like this double slant slide. If teams are going to play you in man, run some rub routes. This isn't earth-shattering stuff by any means, but they're going to put this guy on the point on number 2. He comes underneath this guy who's responsible for number 3. He comes over the top, and he's got a lot of trash to run through to get to that slide, right? Another one we ran with Anthony Brunell and some other kids, that a bunch. We run kind of this double fade. Again, we're not throwing the ball here. They're running in each other's tracks. That's not even like a reasonable look. If this linebacker triggers in the run, we're going to throw this delayed slant underneath it all. Now this corner in man has got to run through 4 guys to get back and cover, number 1 on the slant. Okay, and again, it's based on the movement of this linebacker. Okay, so that's a look at some of the stuff we've done in recent years. Okay, I got some video here. You all see that, Mike? Is that good?
Hold on, coming in here. Yeah, man, that looks great. Perfect. Okay. Keep going.
I went through just a few games and tried to pull some stuff. So we might not have the best examples of it, but here's our 4 vertical game. Okay, and I think I've read that on these Zoom things, the videos get a little jumpy, so I'm going to play it in slow motion. But our quarterback here has got four verts, okay, and his footwork's not great. I'm not the greatest footwork coach for quarterbacks, I'll be honest with you. Okay, but he's looking left, he's going to reset, and he's going to throw it down the hash. Okay, that one's about 18 yards. Okay, about 18 yards there. Okay, so we look to safety, throw opposite, right? And he was pretty good at that. Throw opposite, and then you got a guy to go make a play. Okay. Here's some other examples. Some we did well, some we didn't do well. So from 2018, we've got 4 verts, okay? And this guy is going to screw up Reed Hopkins here. We get away with it, but Reed doesn't run his landmark very well. He's supposed to be on the hash, okay? He's trying to work his way there. And for whatever reason, right, he starts to bend it in. Okay, this linebacker's expanding, okay? And Reed, instead of like staying on course or skinnying up and then getting back on top, he just kind of bends it in. Okay, the ball is a hair late. If we go back to the quarterback, he does a good job looking left. I don't teach him to hop left like that. I don't know what that's about, but that's what he's doing. Okay, so the ball's a little bit late coming out. Okay, it's too deep. Okay, now the safety goes for the ball, and Reed's, a pretty good player. So we get lucky here. That ball's at about 22 yards, and maybe 20 yards, right? So that wasn't a very good job running our landmark, and the quarterback took too long to throw it. That should be on him like right now, basically, right? And this play should be over. Instead, he's kind of letting the safety make a play, and he catches it and goes the distance. But we got a little lucky there. Okay, this goes way back to Mitchell Karen, who was a 4-year starter at Castleton, 3-year starter and a captain at Castleton, 4-year starter in baseball, only a 1-year starter at quarterback for us. But here he is, low snap, kind of cost him his eyes. But I'm going to show you the importance of running your landmark. So here's the left seam, guys, right on the hash. Probably hard for you to see. Look at where this receiver is. I have no idea what he's doing. He's a sophomore. Okay, that's one thing. But he's supposed to be on the bottom of the numbers. Here's the free. Here's the corner. Here's the other corner. If he's way out there and we keep him on his feet, he might score. Okay, but instead our spacing's all messed up, and he's got a chance to make a play. Even if we catch that on our feet, he's going to get hit by that guy and maybe jar it loose. So spacing's really important. We talk about that all the time. Another one from that same game. This is up at Brewer. We lost 42-41 in overtime or something. Another one, again, caught right on the seam. This guy, again, is running some sort of like half-ass route, but Joel Bennett's running the seam. The safety's collisioning him, but he's running his landmark, so therefore, we got a chance, right? So Joel was always pretty good about that. Here's a little vertical switch. Now, again, pre-snap, right, it's important, too, to know where you line up. We talk about the ABCs. Our alignment is our first thing. So Anthony Brunell, our receiver here, should be wider. If he's going to angle in and get on the hash, he needs to be outside the hash in order to run that switch. He's going to come in, and then this kid's going to go out, right? So we got man free here. We thought it was cover 3 based on this pre-snap look. I think most people would. Okay, it turned out to be man free, okay? But Mitchell does a nice job throwing a back shoulder ball here. Okay, so there's a little vertical switch, and he throws it on the back shoulder. Again, just changing it up enough that this guy covering our slot, again, he was a running back, pretty damn good running back, but maybe not great turning and covering in space, although that was pretty decent coverage. Another vertical switch here on this side. And don't watch our left tackle. We convinced him to play football as a senior. This is a pretty good hold. He gets beat here, and that's a pretty legendary hold. We get called, too. But you see the inside stem, it basically turns into wheel there. We get the corner to kind of overplay here, and then we beat him on the outside, right? So vertical switch, again, just to mix up the look. If you just run 4 verts over and over and over against cover 3, they're going to adjust to that, get hands-on, and kind of throw off your timing. So the vertical switch is one way to take advantage of that, right? Or try to take advantage of that. That's a legendary hold. Okay, now here's some of the slot fade stuff from 2018. The first clip is a bad clip, right? That we have pre-snap. We've got our best receiver out here against this kid who's a fullback, actually, and Brewers, eye too tight offense. I'm working this side of the field all day long. The free safety's on the left hash. Like, I'm throwing to this kid all day. And in fact, he probably gets a little bit of a lead on him, okay, and could throw him there. Our quarterback, for some reason, he's a sophomore at this point, he looks left, he pump fakes, okay, he's like, it's not hitch and go, I have no idea what he's doing. He throws into double coverage, okay, incomplete, luckily, but we're going to take this matchup all day long. Our best guy, okay, look at the corner, he's out of the picture. He's playing the hitch or the slant, whatever we had called, okay? He's going to run between the number and the hash, and either lead me to the back pylon, lead me to the front pylon, lead me to just the end zone if I haven't beaten, okay? And we make a bad, again, sometimes sophomores make those mistakes, sometimes seniors make those mistakes, but we come back to it later on before the end of the half. Here's, again, the same exact position on the field. You can see the free safety on the hash, so don't work him right to try to throw back left. Just keep him there. Keep him on the hash if that's where he's going to line up, right? And so Reed just runs by him, right? And so you got your choice of throws. Don't back shoulder. That's the only one we don't want here. Lead him, drift him, whatever you want to do. There's just so much space to throw that football. Right? And we're running slants here by the outside guy, so if that's why you're wondering. And we got away from that just because of the cover 3 issue. But, and so underthrown, Reed does a nice job going up and making a play. But that was pretty good for us at that point. A couple more. Here's one from Biddeford. We got a sophomore starter in the game. Junior, but he, was our backup. He comes in because of an injury. We went empty. They played almost exclusively man-free. If we were in empty, they played 0. So in order to get rid of the free safety, we just brought the running back in, and then they didn't kind of rotate a safety back. And here's one where we're throwing slot fade to the bottom of the screen. So Biddeford had some great athletes. So when he throws this ball, here's the drift. He is inside the hash, okay? We're on the left hash. And so by the time he catches it, he's almost on the number, right? So we drift, right? And you defensive coordinators in the room, like that's about as good a coverage as you could ever have in the slot right there. Back shoulder is not a great option, right? Because he's kind of, in phase there and could kind of turn his head and play it. So we're just saying throw it all the way over here on the number. There's nothing he can do about a ball that's perfectly thrown over the top, right? This one could have been drifted either another, foot or two maybe down here, okay? But a brilliantly thrown ball and a great catch by Reed. But that's as good as you can cover in the slot, and the ability to sort of drift that ball to the right gives them a chance to make a play. Here's the closest example I have to a back shoulder. A Biddeford, this is all 11 guys on defense are in the picture. They're bringing 6 against 5 or 5 or 6. And so we don't have a lot of time to throw this. But in the slot down here, okay, he's kind of even with him. So you could back shoulder this and kind of peel him back to the sideline if you wanted to. He got the rush in his face. I'll go back to the throw. So he's kind of back footing this thing. Again, it's his first start. I'd rather this be on a line, but he almost just underthrows this one instead of back shoulder. But you can see how difficult that is. The kid's a good athlete, the younger Edgerton brother, but that's difficult for a linebacker, fullback type, to cover, turn and run and cover in space, and that makes another nice catch. Yeah, this is late in the game. We ran it on 1st and 10, 2 minutes to go. We need a first down to win. They've got 7 guys at the line of scrimmage, and we go slot fade. This is their first game on turf. There's TJ right over here, TJ Maines, who's in this room with Ben Lucas. There's several thousand people. It's the first game on their turf, and the place is rocking. Okay, and we dialed up slot fade here to try to win the game. Again, they bring pressure. Matt's gotten him beat, right? So again, lead him or drift him. In this case, he really drifts him. Okay, he makes the catch of the year. Maybe not, but they call it a catch. Okay, so you see, here's the advantage. There's so much room to throw the football. He's got the whole half of the field, and that one's impossible to defend. It's also really difficult to catch, but that iced the game for us. So that's our slot fade. Okay, those are our kind of vertical concepts I found to put in here. Let me check the time here. Okay. I'm gonna talk a little bit about our smoke and bubble that we talked about earlier. So here's bubble. Okay, just a quick numbers count. So this guy's really close. He's at about 7, so we don't count him in the box. They've got 1, 2. Okay, so we're going to throw the ball out here. They've definitely got 6 in the box. We aren't going to run into that. So throw it out here. Okay, J-Mac yesterday talked about wide receivers playing like basketball players. Well, here's a damn good basketball player, Jordan Roddy. Right, he's going to just slow play it as soon as he triggers, gets his hands on, and drive that guy out of there. 39 out here is not a good blocker. Okay. He plays too tall. He's about 6'2", 150. Okay, that's not very good. Okay, but if you can secure, the most dangerous threat, you can throw bubble out there. You got a chance. Right, so there's bubble. I'm gonna run through a couple of those against Hamden. Again, Roddy gets out here. The bigger guy, he puts a shoulder into him. Right, that's a big kid. Kent Oliver went somewhere to play tight end, maybe Hebron or something. Okay, puts a shoulder into him. And ideally, yes, you get a kick out here and a seal, and you run the alley. But we don't tell these guys, it's worth noting, we don't tell the receivers which way to block. We don't say you should hook him, and try to get on the sideline. We don't tell them that. We say block him, and if you're any type of athlete with the ball, catch it and make a play, right? And you're going to see that in the next clip. We don't always get that alley. Again, it'd be great if we could, but that's just not in the cards always. Here's one against man. We played Brewer up there, and they're playing man. So number 2 is going to go block number 3's guy. And this is their quarterback, who wasn't the most physical guy. So he was going to kind of, back up here a little bit. So we actually threw this one against man, which we typically don't do. Okay, great throw here. This is a linebacker for us playing quarterback from 2017, Anthony Sousa. His arm strength wasn't great, but he was pretty accurate. Nice throw there. Here's it's 39 here. If he just blocks this guy, he falls down. He doesn't block him. And Roddy probably scores. No, definitely scores if he just blocks that corner then falling. Okay, but again, that's against man. Just kind of swing it out there and play the numbers game. Against Mount Blue from a couple years ago, I guess 17. Again, we don't really secure the edge. That's okay. He's going to catch this thing. Okay, and I'd rather we run out here or backpedal a little faster so it's out past the hash. But again, Sousa's arm was a little bit weak. So maybe our receivers were slowing that down. But just kind of cover up your guys and make a play, right? And be active. You see Reed Hopkins down there blocking and playing in space. So again, if you count it up, 1, 2. Where's number 3? He's not in the picture, so we're going to throw it out there pretty much every time. Against Skowhegan, now we're throwing smoke, which is the number 1 for us. Okay, so these 2 guys here are going to go flat and fast. Yeah, number 2's probably going to block the corner, but if he bails way out of there and this guy rolls up, he's going to block him. So we don't give them man-to-man assignments. They get out there, okay, all we do is kind of step forward and turn around. Certainly not running into this box. They've got 7 in the box. Throw it out there. When they trigger, you trigger, and just go play. Pick up there. Against Lawrence a few years ago, same idea. Outside guys, again, he's not very wide. We ideally would like him closer to the number, but for some reason he's a little tight. And you can see these guys just kind of sorted out. No one's coming fast. We're going to kind of slow play it, get our hands on, and go play. I think it's the last cut here for against Mount Blue again. 1, 2, closest 3 is back here at safety. And it's just, simple. Just throw it out there. So it's, it's like toss sweep. Get it out there. Easy passing yardage for your cues. They like it. You can see the good patience here by the receiver. Roddy's out here just kind of being patient. And then he goes. Right? Gives your best athlete the ball in space. Is that Randy Barker with a late hit? Yeah, what do you know? Randy Barker, late hit. There you go. So then we're over here. This is against Brunswick again. we're not going to run into this box. So we've tagged a little slant, and we do this more often now than we did then. We put a little slant. So we've got smoke to the top of the field. That's not a great look for smoke. They've got two guys that are kind of hard up against that trips. So we have a slant tag back here. If this is Owen Richardson as a sophomore, if he blitzes or he triggers in the run game, we're going to throw a slant right behind him. You can see pre-snap, he's, typically gave away the blitz pretty early. They bring the house, and the ball's a hair late. Sousa should just take one step and throw it, but we get it out there, and Reed makes a nice play. Okay. Here's stick. Just a couple cut-ups of stick. I showed you fade by number 1. Number 2's on the slide. Number 3's on the hitch. Brunswick in 14 came out in a 6-1. Okay. We don't see a lot of that, but we threw stick a couple times here, so it's hard to see on the screen. But this guy out here has got to choose: is he covering the flat or is he covering the hitch? Okay, just catch and throw. Right. That Mike linebacker's working out. Nice job. A couple of years later, Brunswick again at home. You can see them really cognizant of getting up and pressuring number 2. Here's stick. Okay, right there, throwing the hitch. Holy cow, throwing the hitch. This is Devereaux is a great player. Ended up being player of the year as a senior. He's consumed with the slide ball, right? The outcut. We shouldn't run into him like we do, but okay, bang, throw the hitch. Throw it. It's really late. It's Taylor Heath's like second start of his career, maybe third start of his career. Okay, but he got better at it. And so we got it to him, 7 yards. Could have been a lot more. I skipped 2. All right, here's that win route inside where number 2 is going to run a little slant. So again, we can't block this guy. We can block the 4 down to the front side backer. We can't block him. So our quarterback's eyeing him. He stays in the box, okay, or he blitzes like this, we're going to throw the ball. Right, and Roddy's obviously, one of the best ones we've ever had. You can see him take his time to get the slant, sell him out, stick his foot in the ground. Okay, another thing worth noting too, your running backs, their rule is ball to backer, right? So you're going to go get the ball on inside zone, and if you don't get it, you need to peel back and get the backside backer. You're not getting it for a reason. And that's because this guy's blitzing, or he's at least at the line of scrimmage, and he might, show up. So he takes a shot here because Ashton Cunningham doesn't do his responsibility, okay? But any quarterback would take this result every time, even with a shot in the mouth, okay? Every time. So the responsibility of the running back is ball to backer. Here's the last sticker. I thought I put it on there. Roddy, here you go. Same game. You can see how much quicker he reacts to this. Okay, it should be maybe a half a second quicker, but get it out, and go play. Take it to the house. Motion across. Reed Hopkins as a sophomore coming across, little guy. This is Brunswick State Championship team. They were loaded. Okay, we run a little stick route in here. About 5'5", 130 at this point. Might be our best play of the game that night, so I wanted to put it on here. But yeah, that's first play of the game, in fact. We're feeling pretty good over here at Coney. We lost like 42-0 in the first half. And then we have one cut up a slant bubble. Again, here's the guy we can't block. Okay, so if he plays in the run game, we're going to throw the slant in behind him. Here he comes, slant. Good, much better anticipation here by the Q. Okay, the rush is coming, so he's got to get rid of it. He just throws it into the space. You can see this corner thinks it's bubble for a second, right? He kind of gets width because we run so much bubble. And that opens it up even more for Hoppy. Get in there. So again, we're just trying to manipulate. We can't run into this box. So what can we do with these receivers to give us a chance, against that box? So we'll run slant bubble. Here's a couple more of those win routes. Roddy here. Here's the read. So this is early in the game. Okay. We snap the ball. He steps forward. Okay. Roddy wins inside. Put it on. Now, part of this is you got to have a quarterback that's pretty accurate. Those are some tight windows in there. So we wrapped this up quite a bit. He's probably the best we ever had throwing these. Okay, nice quick release, and you'll notice all these are right on the numbers. Like really good. Put it right on his numbers. Drill that thing in there, and go play. Yeah, you might get some linemen downfield occasionally, right? Our left tackle Kenny Lindelof is an assistant at Lawrence. He was yelling a little bit. Our left tackle's at about 3, but we didn't get flagged in that game. So first play of Andhau's career at Biddeford after Riley got hurt. Here's this, again, the win route here to Hoppy. Linebacker, here's the read. He's way in the box. He triggers, throw the ball. Okay. Same idea out here to Roddy. Here's the read. He steps up. Now, again, he's starting to slow down. He's not really flying up in the run game. Part of that's we weren't a great run team that year. But, he's also a little bit worried about something coming around behind him. And there's Roddy with a great catch. And a nice throw there from our quarterback as well. Backup quarterback's in here again. He's got a concussion against Lawrence. Here's the only clip I have of us throwing the other slant. So here's the read, right? I think you should throw it to Roddy, right? To me, it looks like Roddy's open, right? 51 if I go back. He's playing the run, okay? Throw it to Roddy right now, okay? But instead, and you can see the demeanor of this receiver. He's not expecting it because we don't throw it very often. He's kind of jogging it. Oh, now I'm getting the ball. And he's not flat enough. He should be coming down the line flat, not a slant, okay? But we do throw, it's Colton Vining throwing the old fin route, okay, in his time playing quarterback. So that's the second look. And if you go back and look at these, they're open a lot. The outside guy coming underneath is open a lot. Here's Hoppy running it again against Lawrence a couple years later. Here's the read right there. It's kind of hanging out. Rip that thing. See this route here by the outside guy. It's up to 5. Yeah, he's not really running very hard. But they've kind of realized they're not getting it. We don't do a good enough job coaching that. A little dressed up look at this. Roddy's the running back. We motion him out. Okay, get some guys. We throw a little swing screen to him a lot. Pull it out. Rip it in behind him. So again, the read's right here. He doesn't move, I think, at all. I'm not sure what he's doing. He's kind of standing there. But that's the read we're looking at. Touchdown there. This was one, sometimes we do it to a single receiver side. We put Roddy over there. He probably should have been a little wider. Here's the read. It's like a glance post nowadays. It wasn't called that maybe a few years ago. It's soaking wet. The field's a nightmare, so the ball comes out a little late, a little bit more air on it because it's trying to kind of guide it. So the free safety is almost in the picture, which is not really ideal. So the alignment and the conditions kind of, but he's wide open. You can see he's wide open. This guy, plays forward. Okay, you see our lines block and run, and we're throwing that behind him. The glance. And I think this might be one of the last clips. Here's the double fade with an under route by number 1. Here's the read, the linebacker, okay? Reset that. So the linebackers are going to blitz. We're going to throw right into that vacated spot. We're going to clear out those two, come underneath it with our outside guy. Now this guy had, I don't know, he was all state, and I bet, watch this 40 time. I bet he's 5'3" in the 40. 5'4" in the 40 maybe, right? But he had 60 catches for 900 yards somehow that year. Not blazing speed. And the last couple here against Biddeford, against just, those of you, I know Mike's played Biddeford a bunch, you're going to get press man, at least with their own coaching staff, press man, here's slant, flat, right? So we're trying to kind of get in the way of this guy. He's responsible for number 3. We're going to push, okay? These two guys are running their slants. They run into each other. Now he's going to be wide open. Same idea now, 3rd and 8. We catch a ball almost at the line of scrimmage here. Slant, flat. Again, really hard for the guy on top of number 3, okay, to get there. A lot of teams press number 2. Use that to your advantage. They run him, back him up right into number 3. Okay, number 1 runs in there. Okay, we're in good shape. First down. This is late in the game. They're like flat across. They got tired of running into each other, but this time the outside guy runs into number 3's guy. Boop. And again, coaches, fans will yell pick. We're not picking anybody. They're picking each other here. We might have one coming up where we run a little pick, but I know Coach Kempton's yelling pick, but that's not a pick by us, right? And then, this is after we completed one. Now we go slant, wheel by Hoppy. Okay, so this guy that's on Hoppy now, we're trying to invite him underneath. Okay, so you see Wozniak go over the point guy goes over the top of him to encourage him to come underneath so we can run the wheel. This stuff we worked on all week. We knew we had that coverage coming. They did a really good job running this route. Now our outside guy does actually lower his shoulder and kind of pick here. I guess I didn't realize that until the other day, but he kind of bumps it. I think he was open anyway. We pass protected like hell in this game, so if you're looking at that, don't. But we had some guys, were able to get open, through that. Okay, and so that's that. It's a lot. I know I kind of went fast. I tend to talk pretty fast, but I'll leave it to Mike here. I hit stop share, and you did it. All right, there you go. You good there, Mike?
Hey, that was awesome, man. Good stuff. I'm gonna stop the recording, and then if guys want to put on their cameras and mics and ask some questions, that would be awesome. But that was great, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Love that slot fade.
Yeah, we didn't see a lot of man this year, so we didn't run a lot of it, but we
what I liked was the